At the very heart of the Mediterranean Sea, between southern Europe and North Africa, lie the Maltese Islands. Islands whose destiny has been shaped and reshaped by a restless sea. Human life on the islands began around 5200 BC, when Stone Age man sailed south from Sicily. Peaceful farming people, they made their first homes in caves and worked pottery, decorated with the impressions of seashells, bones, or simply their fingernails. But the greatest artistic achievements of the earliest islanders were yet to come. These unique and astonishing artifacts all date from the mysterious Temple period, which spanned some 1600 years. Historians place its beginning at around 4100 BC. We can only guess at the rites and rituals practiced in these extraordinary structures. Soon, though, the seas were to bring new colonizers. The Phoenicians, a mighty race of explorer-navigators, bequeathed the islands the Eye of Osiris, still reverentially painted on the high prows of every fishing boat, or lutsu. At last, the islands were to pass to the greatest empire builders of their age, the Romans. Malta flourished under the Romans. Around 60 AD, the Apostle Paul was making the slow and hazardous sea voyage to Rome. Driven by a merciless storm, his ship ran aground on rocks. Miraculously, everyone aboard managed to struggle to land. The land was Malta. Paul stayed on the island for 3 months, healing the sick and preaching the gospel. He sowed the seeds of a mighty Christian tradition, which would soon become one of the island's most dominant and overarching forces. But far to the east, another mighty force was awakening. Fired by the compelling call of Islam, the newly united armies of Arabia were streaming from their homelands in an irresistible tide of conquest. Malta and Gozo fell to the Arabs in 870 AD. The 200 years of Arab rule that followed were a time of peace and prosperity. But as ever, change on the islands would come from the sea. The Order of the Knights of St. John had been founded to provide medical care to pilgrims visiting Jerusalem. But after the turbulence created by the Crusades, the Knights were forced into an increasingly military role. In 1530, the order reluctantly accepted the Maltese Islands, the gift of Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. A nominal rent was charged, a falcon to be presented yearly. On the morning of May the 18th, 1565, La Valette's worst fears were realized as the Ottoman Armada hove into view. At last, at the beginning of September, reinforcements from Sicily sailed into Malta Bay. Broken and wasted, the remnants of Suleiman's once invincible war machine were forced back to sea. As the church bells pealed victory, Jean de la Valette accepted the praise and thanks of all Christendom. The siege was the spur to one of the world's most far-sighted and ambitious architectural projects, the creation of the Grand Master's namesake city, Valletta. The order ruled in peace and stability for a further 230 years. The beginning of the French Revolution in 1789 effectively guillotined the order's reign in Malta. When Napoleon Bonaparte sailed his massive armada into Grand Harbour in 1798, resistance was minimal. Grand Master Ferdinand von Hompesch surrendered the largest fort in Europe with barely a shot fired. The rule of the Knights was over forever. Responding to the islanders' pleas for help, the commander of the British fleet, Admiral Horatio Nelson, seized his opportunity both to liberate the islands and claim a significant prize for the world's foremost maritime power. His action was swift and decisive. A force of Marines was landed on Malta and the harbour blockaded. The French were starved into surrender. The islands enjoyed a state of relative peace for more than a century, becoming a bastion of the British Empire. In 1921, the islands became one of the first British colonies to be granted self-government. In the early summer of 1940, an eerie calm seemed to pervade the islands. The calm before a hellish storm. The first air raid came at dawn the following day. The islands were woefully unprepared for war. Then, on the eve of the Feast of Santa Maria, salvation came, when the battle-scarred remnants of a relief convoy edged into Grand Harbour with life-saving supplies. Now began a time of renewal and reconstruction, and a period of social and political change marked by several proud milestones, culminating in accession to the European Union in 2004. These are no ordinary people. The islanders have roots that go deep, roots that come from a multitude of civilizations, ideas and influences that came over thousands of years from a restless sea.